Welcome to Happy Hour with Ruth
and Roxy. Thanks
Okay.
for coming today.
Yeah, I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
So not only is this two-part podcast a redo of one where we were just too cranky and ranty. This one is actually a redo of the redo because I deleted the last one by accident because I thought I was being smart and cleaning up my laptop. So you'll see we don't have the same clothes on as the last week's podcast, but going forward, if we keep this format, you will see us in the same clothes, but
drinking the same wine.
Yeah, it was me, and I confess, and it was just flat out stupidity.
We were walking the dogs last night talking about something unrelated. And all of a sudden, Ruth stopped and looked at me and said, I think I deleted it. And I said, what? What do you mean? Oh, I think I deleted it.
So I wasn't used to having a two-part podcast either because I was like, the podcast's done. I can take it on. I put, and I put the finished ones on a disc so we have an archive.
That's why.
I don't put the raw footage.
Yeah.
So it's all on me, which is why we're showing up sort of rough and ready. And we had to, we had 24 hours to call a podcast, and we did it because of you, because we don't want to let you down, because we promised to.
Yeah, we did.
Yep. Okay, what are we drinking, Roxanne? Because it's different than the last one.
We are drinking a very lovely meritage from Noble Ridge Winery. So it says here, King's Ransom Meritage is truly the pinnacle in our collection. This full-bodied meritage has rich aromas of leather, tobacco leaf, and cassis. Deep and textured, the velvet tannins carry through to an extensive finish. I don't know. It's good.
It's good. And it came from a wine tour we took a couple of years ago in Kelowna, which is in the Okanagan, which is our wine region here in British Columbia. And it's really good. And it's a little pricey, but I'm trying to make up for deleting 35 minutes, 36.25 minutes.
She's feeling so bad. She keeps apologizing to me. I'm like, what's the big deal? We're going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
I don't care.
What she's meaning is we're going to drink anyway, so we might as well tape it.
Might as well tape it.
Okay. And now we need to go to our cliffhanger, which is a very exciting thing for me somehow. I'm not sure why I'm so obsessed with our cliffhangers.
So we talked about how birds aren't real. And I this is something that I came across when I was looking for something else, as you do on the internet. And I saw this thing and I laughed so much. We cannot make this stuff up, but somebody did. And the whole thing about birds aren't real was, where did I put that? Hold on. Hold on, actually.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. I found it.
There it is. Okay.
There it is.
Okay, so
delete, backspace.
If we're not organized, let's again. This is the only podcast I'm ever going to keep saying it's my fault, because usually it's never.
So, birds aren't real is a Gen Z fueled conspiracy theory, which posits that birds don't exist, but are really drone replicas installed by the U.S. government to spy on Americans. And people believed this. Probably people do, to the point where people are saying, when they sit on electrical wires, right? They're recharging.
It's gone too far. The conspiracy stuff has gone too far. It's become ridiculous.
And this is what this is about, because Birds Aren't Real is in fact a parody social movement with a purpose. In a post-truth world dominated by online conspiracy theories, young people have coalesced around the effort to thumb their nose at, fight and poke fun at, misinformation. It's Gen Z's attempt to upend the rabbit hole with absurdism. Gotta love the Gen Zs.
Gen Zs and millennials are going to save the world, I have to say.
Yep.
The youngins are smart, and they're taking on the construct of society that we and our parents and grandparents built in a way that really is about disruption. And there's a lot of people, I have to say, our age that don't like it. I love it.
There's some things that are challenging about it, and I can never remember who's what generation. But absolutely, I love that aspect of it.
Yep.
Absolutely challenge us, challenge the establishment.
Yeah.
If it holds, then it had merit.
Yeah, and I like because growing up, I mean, I came from a a household where it's about work ethic, and I'm proud of my work ethic. But you know what? As much as, and I've worked for some great companies, and we have great clients. If I disappeared, tomorrow, within a week or 10 days, they'd have me replaced. Right. And the young ones realize that. And what they're saying is they want a better work-life balance. They, like they won't kill themselves for a corporation. And it doesn't mean that they don't have passion and purpose, because but they do, and they want a company that does good things and that's making the world a better place. But they work for when they're getting paid. And at first I was like, come on, man. And then I realized they aren't wrong. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and this is, so you'll be hearing this a few times throughout the podcast. Did we talk about this already, or was this something we were going to talk about? Because in the one that got lost, we talked about a lot of this stuff. So this goes back to a comment from our listener, Sharon, who said that we should talk a little bit about that idea of job satisfaction, and how there's so many people who spend 8 hours. So you think about 8 hours a day, that's half of your waking life. Yeah. So half of your adult waking life.
It's more than half of mine.
Oh, it's absolutely. Yeah. There's something, when you start your day at 4 a.m., I don't know, there's something wrong with her, but
there is.
But like to do that. So that's a great thing if you're supporting a family and you have bills to pay. Sure. But at some point you have to look at yourself and say, I want to be happy.
And I think, I remember in the 80s when they had, what was that movie with Charlie Sheen, Wall Street, right? Greed is good. Greed is not good. And the billionaires in the world, except for Taylor Swift, I have to say, I'm making a little asterisk by her name because I think she does good. She should stop flying a freaking private plane around. But
but she could never fly commercial. So
no, and that's just it. And also she does a lot to offset. I think some of that could be better, but I think she is a good human and is doing a lot of good in the world. But it is a little bit about, I happen to love my job. I don't always love my job though, and I'm one of the lucky ones, and you're one of the lucky ones.
Yep.
Right. But I think sometimes some people they have a job and they look for a good paying job with good benefits, but it's their job and their world is outside of their job. Right. Whereas for me, my job has always been a big part of it. I remember when I left McLean's and they took me off the masthead and I had an identity crisis.
Oh, I believe that.
Right. Because it was like, if I'm not the McLean's girl, who am I?
Yeah.
But again, like, I really love my job, and I know lots of people in our family and they're quite patient and good with us, but they wonder why we work so much. And part of it is because I love it, because honestly, don't tell any of our clients, but I do it for free because I really do like it. But I know I'm an exception. Right?
You're passionate about what you do and you believe in it. And I absolutely get that too. When we had, my husband's a veterinarian, and we have owned and run 3 different clinics at various times. And that was my background way back. So I've always been involved from the ground up. And we would get questions all the time. Oh, well, when is Ray done work? And I would always say, well, the clinic closes at 4, but if something walks in at 3:45, he might be there till 6.
And it's an emergency.
When does Ray get off work? He doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't get off work at a particular time.
Yep.
Yeah. And if there's and now we don't, he actually is an employee, and I don't work in the clinic at all. And I work when there's work, and when there's a deadline, I might work 12 or 15 hours a day to meet the deadline.
Yeah.
And then not work at all for a week. You know?
And that's just it. And I think it's finding that balance. And I'm okay with working the big chunks. And we're working towards that kind of thing. Like, we'll be really busy up until we're going to Greece and Italy. We'll be really busy up to there. So the 2 weeks are clear. And part of it is because, it's our agency. But the other part is we've committed to people. And honestly, I do like it. But, it wasn't until we started spending a lot of time with you guys where I realized I was entitled to a weekend. Right. And that's a big thing. And it never struck me before because it was just natural to us. And it doesn't mean we won't. But now what we do is, we might get up and work for a couple hours before the rest of the world is up, because we're up.
Because I ain't ever getting up at 4 a.m. voluntarily.
I've seen you get up.
Yeah, if I have to catch a flight, sure, whatever.
But I think the young ones, and certainly you guys, because you are a young one, just saying, But I think
she's delusional.
Well, I erase things. But But I think it's a really important thing to look at your work-life balance. And there are times in your career when you have to do it.
Mhm.
And there are times even for us now at we're in the later edges of careers where we do it, but now we do it because we want to, right? Because it's a project near and dear to our hearts, because it's a client we really like, because it will have a good impact on the world. But I do think, and I see it on social media all the time, that, the young ones are just like, people will be like, well, there's overtime. It's like, well, is it paid overtime? And when they say no in the job interview, they're like, I'm out. And I don't blame them. You should get paid for every minute you work.
Well, and a lot of them grew up with parents doing that, right? Doing all this unpaid labor. And they missed out on family time for it, or they saw the toll that it took. I mean, I know my kids saw the toll that being business owners took on us, my husband especially. And they don't want that. Doesn't mean that they don't want to be business owners, but they don't want to work those hours and give up that much of their lives for not the right kind of compensation. And good for them.
Well, and that's just it. And it's not the right kind of compensation because to them, a weekend out in nature, or a weekend with family, or a weekend honestly laying on the couch reading a book, is the thing. And I think that's a really good shift.
Yep.
Because, and I do still struggle with it. Like because for so long, my entire identity has been what I do, not who I am. Right. And it's a big shift to make, but the youngins, it feels like they knew it coming out of the womb.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of that ties into what we talked about last week, or possibly the week that disappeared. Hard to say for sure.
Same week.
When we were talking about time, right?
Yeah.
And the
40,000 weeks.
Yeah. She's going to live forever.
well, don't you get 40,000? Is it 4,000?
I think it's 4,000 weeks.
Okay, just for the record,
there's 50 per year.
I'm not good with numbers. Nobody ever lets me split up the bill.
I don't know. I keep calling it 40,000 hours, which isn't right either. But I think it's 4,000 weeks.
I guess 40,000 weeks. How old?
It's pretty old.
You notice how she laughs at me? She's not laughing with me. Just saying.
I'm laughing with you.
You're really, she's not. She's laughing at me. You can tell. But she has a certain laugh when she laughs at me.
But that idea of recognizing the amount of time that we have, which is limited.
So even more limited here.
It's the hourglass is trickling fast here. But you look at what you're doing and it starts to become a thing. Am I doing what I love? This is all the life I get. This is it.
Yeah.
Do I want
that we know about,
to be happy?
Just saying.
That we know about, sure. So are you loving it? This is your one and precious life. How does the quote go? What are you doing with it?
Right.
So if you want to be at work and you love what you're doing, great. But if you're there all the time feeling that pressure in your chest that you want to be somewhere else, you can't wait till you're done. Yeah. Change it.
Yeah. And there are things you can do. Like the other thing is, and it's a balance, right? Because even a job that I swear 98% of the time I leap out of bed and I'm interested in it, and that 2% is awful, right? Like the stuff you don't want to do, or you're dealing with somebody who's challenging or something. But the other side of that is balance is better for you. In fact, you're smarter. Like Roxanne has encouraged me to garden, and I grow vegetables because I suck at everything else. I kill every house plant.
Oh my God, you should have seen the Brussels sprouts she grew last year.
But I appear to be good at Brussels sprouts and zucchini and maybe tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
And my sister's encouraging me too. She keeps sending me seeds and usually wildflowers and stuff, which is really good. But I realized how much I enjoyed that. And I think before, because I mostly hung around people from work. Right. And when that's what you have in common, that's what you talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And then the world starts to expand and you realize it's a really big, interesting place out there. Right. So it is. But getting back to it, I think if you like your job, it's one thing. If you can just tolerate it, but it's really good for your family and you can manage it and still have a life. It's the job. What kills me are the people that I feel so bad for, the people that need to work 3 jobs to take care of things. Yeah. And that breaks my heart because okay, and this is definitely my left-leaning soul coming out, but people should get paid a living wage. Yeah. Right. And if we have to pay those of us who are lucky enough to be able to afford to go out for dinner, if we have to pay a couple bucks more for a meal or for a burger or whatever it is, I am happy to do that if somebody can make a living wage. Right. Yep. And I think it should be worked into the price. Like we all over tip and a lot for that reason. But I'd like to see, and I know in the food industry it's different because they work on very small margins and lots of people wouldn't go then. But there are other things out there where they're not paying people well enough. I mean, and everybody should make a living wage, right? Because then you do get to enjoy life. Like these single parents who are working 3 jobs, and thank goodness they have somebody to help with kids and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, my goodness, like somewhere we have let them down, because nobody should have to work 3 jobs to just pay the bills.
Well, and my comment about, make a change if you're unhappy with your work, I recognize that there is a lot of privilege behind that statement, because not everyone can do that.
Yep.
So if you can, great. And if you can't, you can still look at what is in your power. Yes. What is in your power to change? And sometimes it may just be taking ownership of what you have and saying, this is what what I have right now
for today,
and I'm going to do the best job I can, and I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can.
Yep.
And I mean, we all, whether it's your whole lifetime or whether it's a temporary thing, we've all had jobs like that where it's like, you know what, I just got to get through the summer.
Yeah, and there's actually a Jimmy Buffett song, and you guys will start to realize that I quote Jimmy Buffett a lot, and maybe The Big Bang Theory, but there's a Jimmy Buffett song, and it's about a street sweeper, right? And it's about the street sweeper who's like, who talks about, I'm going to do the best job I can. And if I remember right, and I don't know this for sure, but I think it's Jimmy Buffett was coming home maybe early in the morning one day and came across somebody and had the conversation. But it was like, hey, you know what? This is my job and I'm going to do it better than the rest. And the other thing is even finding 10 or 15 minutes to have a bath or take a minute to have a cup of tea, or like, there are things you can do to give yourself the gift of leisure, even if it's just for a moment, right? And that's just it. Like the challenge is lots of people are locked in, and as a society we need to do better. But those who are in a situation to do it, I mean, you got to look at the 40,000 weeks you got left.
Oh, what else were we going to talk about?
So this leads into, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think our friend Lindy had talked about the divisiveness out in the world, and how do we fix it? And I've been thinking about it a lot because we're going into an election in British Columbia, so it's about to get a little crazy here. But the U.S. is going into a presidential election; it's going to get really crazy. And I started thinking about, what about the greater good? Like when people make decisions, and if they only make it for their own self, then it does divide us, because it becomes really selfish. And there's an African saying called Ubuntu, which and I looked it up so I get it right, but can best be described as an African philosophy that places emphasis on being self through others. It's a form of humanism which can be expressed in the phrase, I am because of who we all are. And I saw this. I was with, my niece has a foundation called the Obaki Foundation. We'll put a link. They've got beautiful products for sale, all that go, and it all goes back to helping those less fortunate, mostly in Africa, not always. But I was there at an orphanage, and one of the kids had something going on, and one of the people that was with us, she took off her socks and she gave it to this child. And I mean, this kid probably wasn't more than 6. And instead of being delighted for what he got, all of a sudden they're in a group, and it was like, hey, Trina, what's going on? My niece. And she was like, oh, they're deciding who gets to wear the socks on which day, right? And so instead of thinking, I got this, what this child did immediately was, here's how we share.
Oh.
Right? And when you see that, and then sometimes you're somewhere and you see those they are just self-motivated. They don't look for the greater good. And it's all about what they want instead of looking for the greater good, which is a really challenging thing to do, because if we all do that, the fabric of society is going to implode.
It's such a different mindset though, right? Like North American culture is individualistic.
Yep.
Whereas a lot of other cultures in the world are community-based, collective. There's a word for it that I can't remember now, but we have almost the cult of individualism, and I am as guilty of it as anyone else. We so learned that independence is the best thing, right? We have to look after ourselves, and that's really important to a certain extent. So my favorite book in the world, the Poisonwood Bible, talks exactly about, one of the characters in there mentions they're having a conversation about money, and the white missionaries who come to Congo, as it was then, are one of the people from the village is trying to explain to them the difference in mindset. And they're like, okay, so when Tata, whoever, goes out and he catches a whole bunch of fish, more than he can eat, what does he do? And the girl says, well, he gives it all away. But he doesn't have a fridge. He has to give it all away. And the guy says, no, he gives it all away because that's what they do. But if you did that with your money, you would never be rich. And he says, I've seen white men with lots of money. They are no happier. They have less children. We're not looking for that. We're not looking about getting rich. We're looking about sharing what we have.
Well, but that kind of goes back to my whole,
I don't know. I kind of still want to be rich, but I don't know. I don't know how to reconcile
but
that.
But you could also do good things. Like I think you can live in abundance. But the other thing is, I think that's the challenge of it right now. There are, especially because I think we should send the orca whales after all the billionaires on their yachts, except Taylor Swift. Please leave her alone. But the challenge is people are hoarding more than they need.
Yes.
And that's just it. And that's exactly it is, and we kind of had this when I was younger, and I was first starting out at McLean's, and we had a little group we hung around. And so if we were going out and somebody was like, that's a tight month for me, it's like, we got you, because they would all do it back. Right. And it was a collective that we had. And we see that now, I mean, it's not, we're all in different financial situations now, but the community and the sharing, like I really think I missed out on being a hippie in a commune somewhere, because I like to cook and share.
You would have been so good.
But I think we're missing out on that part where you take a step back and say, okay, well, I want this, but is this good for everyone around me? Right. And I do. I feel like that's gone away. And I have to admit, I'm one of the worst ones about it, because once you cross that line with me, you get nothing. And I have to be better with that. Because sometimes the people that are hardest to love or like are the ones that need it the most.
What's the saying? Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, right?
People that are hurt others.
And when they hoard things and away from the billionaires, but when they hoard power or control or resources, there's a reason that they're doing that. The problem is, so it hurts everybody, and that just divides us further. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm trying to figure out a way to do it without messing with my values, because honestly, if we don't share values, I'm not going to have a lot in common that makes me want to do good for you. And I'm not talking about somebody like sharing values. I'm not talking about somebody who life has dealt them a crappy hand. You know what I mean? I might not have the same values as somebody who, say, does heroin, but that's not the thing of it. You know what I mean? It's about people who think they deserve to do something that may hurt others. And I think the way through that, but you can't do it from just one part of society. Like, if it's a little bit like when you see somebody trying to break through to the really, really, really rigid people on the far right, right? You can't do it if you go and say, hey, let's find a way down the path. And they're like, yeah, it's my way or the highway. Well, that compromise can't happen then.
No.
Right. And so I don't know how you break through until people start to see that we are better, as they said, that we are because of who we all are, right? That I am because of who we all are. Right? Because without community, we have nothing. And there's studies upon studies that tell you community helps people live longer and live healthier. And does so much.
Have you watched The Blue Zone?
No.
The Blue Zone.
But it's on my list. It is on my list.
The Blue Zone. It's on Netflix, I think. And I've watched all the episodes. And that's one thing that they talk about all the time in there. Yes, you need to eat, vegetables, and you need olive oil and less or no red meat, blah, 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 all that stuff. But community is the one thing among all of these places on earth where people live to be 100, 110, whatever. That's something that they all have in common. And that's, for me at least, it's a huge part of what I discovered when we moved to this community, literally.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, I have people that I like around me most of the time.
She likes me best.
I do like the best.
but that's just it. And like all of our times when we've traveled, especially, like when we've been in in countries in Africa, or we were in Guatemala or Vietnam. That's what you saw was, and I can remember, and again, it was with Trina, and we were in Cameroon, and what I saw was, here's somebody with a little dirt house, and we saw it in South Africa too, actually, a little dirt house, and you're interested, so they invite you in, and they have a box of cookies that they probably kept for a year. And the first thing they say to you is, I'll make you tea and get some cookies.
Aww.
Right? And that you're taking something incredibly precious for them.
Wow.
And so, but you can't, you don't say no because
Right.
they are being incredibly generous.
Yeah.
Right? But there's somebody who has nothing, who looks to find, because you were even just a little bit kind and open to them, right? Who does that. And yet here in North America, and not necessarily everybody, but lots of people, their first reaction is, what can I get from you, instead of what can I give you? And I think until a majority, it's a little bit like herd what's the vaccination thing? Herd immunity. Right? It's a little bit like that until we get a critical mass of people reaching out that way. And that's why, like, when you see the random acts of kindness things that go on out in the world, I think they're important. Like, you see these things where they buy somebody a coffee in the coffee lineup, and lots of critics are like, well, go give that money to a local school or something. There's a bigger purpose to just buying somebody a coffee than buying them a coffee, right? And when you start those chains, it changes everything. And I think it's really important to try to do that. So as I'm saying this, I'm going to think about ways how I can do those random acts of kindness more, because
you do a lot of those.
It brings us back.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had the pleasure of visiting with a friend I haven't seen for a while. Her name's Candace. Candace, if you're listening, because I know you looked us up. Candace just said a brilliant thing. We had, my husband and I had breakfast with her, and one of her, and I wrote it down. I'm like, ooh, stop. Let me get my phone. I got to take a note here. I am what I'm putting out into the world. And this is, I've known Candace for a lot of years, and in many ways, her life's had a lot of challenges in it. And she is not someone who complains. And she has built herself a fantastic life without a lot of breaks coming her way.
Right.
And I just so admire that. Like, I am what I'm putting out into the world.
That's a great one.
Isn't it? And because she will not give into the bitterness or the, if only, or, well, I could have if I'd have had that, advantage or whatever. But to me, this brings us to another comment that one of our listeners suggested we talk about whether or not to have children. The idea of being childless by choice, or, having a family. So Candace has a daughter, and she raised her as a single mom for the most part. But I love this. And this is a tongue-in-cheek comment, okay? She said, having children is like agreeing to an abusive relationship. No matter what they throw at you, we keep coming back. And it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, I will be there for my kids, whether they always think that's the truth or not. It doesn't really matter. I will be there for them. And it is like, they throw stuff at us that we would never tolerate in another relationship.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love, absolutely. But it's not for everyone, nor should it be.
Not for me. And honestly, I knew early on. I think I was like 16 going to our family doctor. Then it was like, tie my tubes. And he's like, I'm not doing that. And I still had him when I was in my early 20s. And I was like, tie my tubes. He's like, I'm not doing that. And he said, you can go to another doctor and they might. He said, but I want to give you the option, right, of maturing into who you're going to be, and do it. I still don't have kids. And what's the right way to say it? I never wanted them, but if something had randomly happened, then I would have figured it out. Can't be any worse than deal with a puppy, right? But
depends what kind of dog it is.
But also, like, and Roxanne will back this up. And I like little kids who can talk to you. The little tiny ones, I'm afraid I'm going to think a bad thought and ruin their psyche.
Oh,
like, I'm scared of them.
The baby stage is so much, that truly is like a puppy. Because they're
I know, but what if I look at them wrong and then it messes with their psyche?
You're funny. They're a lot more resilient than you. They're pretty resilient.
No, but like, holy man.
But you are a dangerous force. I will agree with that.
I'm a dangerous force for children?
I saw the look in your eyes. Oh, look at I made her sad.
Okay, well, maybe I buy
You're
little,
a powerful force. Let me put
I
it
buy
that way.
little kid friends of mine chocolate fountains, perhaps. Maybe
You
I
do.
am dangerous.
You have more influence than you think, and you're great with kids.
I do really like
I like
kids.
my own kids. I'm like I knew I always wanted to have kids, but I never was one of those people that are like, oh, I like kids. To me, kids are people, and I don't like all people. I like some people, and I don't like other people. I think that's kind of the way it is.
That's kind of the way life goes.
Age is not really part of it, but my kids love them.
Yep.
My grandkids love them.
Yep.
Other ones, when they're screaming in a restaurant, less.
Yeah,
but I also get it.
No, but that's and you are compassionate. You'd be the person if there was a baby crying on the plane and the poor mom was kerfuffled because she had a 3-year-old to go pick up the baby and
I've
help.
done
right?
that.
You
I
are
absolutely do that because I totally get that.
But so I have she was my mom's best friend and he was my dad's best friend, and then my mom passed away and I kind of inherited them and they have a daughter who's now in her 30s, but she was like my kid. And if I'd known I could have had a kid as good as her, I might have had one. But then I also have, and I'm going to give a little shout out to Harper, who's the granddaughter of a really good friend, Julie, who we will have on one day. But Harper is a kid that I have come to absolutely love. I mean, she is smart and she's funny and she's a little bit introverted and then
Harper
she's
is awesome.
And but her and I have this really great relationship because we're both kind of geeky, awkward humans, and we get each other. I love her
really,
too.
She totally gets you.
Next podcast, I'll bring out the little pink flamingo purse that she made me. So cute. But I do like kids, and I like building relationships because the other thing is, it's one thing. It's like I'm a really good auntie, I guess is the right way to say it, right? But I've had it where kids have called me because they were worried about calling their parents about stuff, and I've coached them. And I also had, and I'm not gonna say which kid in my life, but they're grown up now, who called me from the bar and said, I think somebody put something in my drink, right? Because they're afraid to tell, because there's some things they don't want to admit to their parents. But they're also okay if they come to me and I say, you really need to tell them. You want me to go with you? Right? Like so you can be a buffer, especially these days, right?
Yeah.
And I think, but the other side is just because I don't have kids doesn't mean I don't like kids. And I think, but I also think I am also of the mind, and maybe it's a bit old school, is that if you bring kids to my house, you should mind your kids.
Yep.
Right? Like the other side of that is, I've had a couple of parties where people let their kids run wild, and all of a sudden I'm in, and they're like doing water balloon fights in my house.
Yeah, no,
right?
That's a
Which
hard
is a big no, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have that too, and we've had times where we've said to someone, "Can you? I think your kid needs you."
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like they are in that way, they're like puppies. And when I say stuff like that, please understand, I'm an animal lover, so I don't like them at all. I have no problem connecting, the whole.
No, but that's just it.
Like, don't call my kid an animal. This might be a slight on the animal, lady.
But that's just it. Like, it just means it's a little being dependent on you, right?
Exactly. They don't make good choices. No. They need us. They need us to help.
Yeah, and to help guide them. So when they go to make a bad choice, it's like, you really want to think about that. It doesn't mean just say no. Say, let's talk about this, right? And do that. And I think there are roles for all sorts of people in a child's life. And some of them are the things where they would come to Auntie Ruth and tell me stuff. And then sometimes, because honestly, a kid gets in trouble, the first thing they call for their mom, right? Like that's just how it goes, right? Yeah. And my mom used to say, I can remember asking her, it's like, you have a favorite kid? And she's like, the kid I love the most is the one that's in the most trouble at any given time. Oh my gosh. Right? So right. So right. Again, a line from my favorite book, which is, anybody remember? Poisonwood Bible. I know this.
Mothers love their children from the bottom up. It's about need, right? Yeah. It's and that doesn't mean that we love anyone less, but we care for them according to the need that they have for us. Which I'm an oldest child, and I can hear my oldest child right now saying, "Well, that explains a lot." But it is true. You care for them according to what they need from you
at that moment.
But
that's just it, and it's looped through. But it isn't interesting because it never, it wasn't. I don't even think it was a conscious decision. I just always knew, right, that it wasn't in the cards for me in this lifetime. There might be another lifetime. I did have a psychic tell me one time when she said, "Oh, no kids," and I was like, "Yeah," and she was like, "Oh, you needed a break."
Oh, that's interesting. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's something we've not done together on a trip.
Psychics.
Yeah, psychics.
Yes.
I visited one in San Francisco with my daughter. It was great.
Yep. Okay, so that's a good one. So you were going to talk about
I
the wellness guru too.
Oh, the wellness guru. Yes. How are we for
Okay,
time?
we got. Where is? What does that say?
I can't.
How
read
old
that.
am I?
I can't
Hang
read that,
on.
but let me try.
Oh my
this.
God! It says 35 minutes.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna then. I'll save Adrian for another day. But I'm gonna tell you a new word that I learned today.
Ooh.
And the word is Kvelling, and I think it's pronounced
Kvelling.
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 I am Kvelling you. I don't know.
What does that mean?
I can't do a Brooklyn accent. It means to burst with pride or excitement, especially for someone else, like proud parents watching their children excel or teachers watching students. And this
Hang
was.
on, you should read what I put on my notes.
Why did mine not?
Because I did my notes after yours.
No, mine is here too.
Does it? Oh, it does.
It does say that.
I put in little funnies by
I
hers.
like that. Yeah, and she does. You absolutely are a caveller of mine, I guess. So caveller. So a friend of mine named Barbara Rogan, an author who is another level ahead of me in her career path. I took a course from her years ago called Next Level Writing, Next Level Editing. I can't remember. I'll put it in the show notes. And so she follows me and I follow her. She's an exceptionally good author. Her book, Suspicion, fantastic, just brilliantly written.
We will also put a link to that.
Yeah, we will. Anyway, Barbara Rogan saw that I had a new book out, and I will show you a picture of it right here. The paperback version came out recently. And
we're all Kvelling for you.
That one's yours.
Ooh, thank you. Did you sign it?
I did sign it. And I had a bad pen, so I'm sorry. I should have had a better pen for the whole thing.
Ooh, she loves me.
But she saw that, and and all she wrote in the comment was Kvelling. And I said, I need to know what that means now.
Just for the record, if she doesn't know a word, it's a big day.
I'm pretty sure it's Yiddish.
Doesn't matter. When she does, I walk out and it's like, yeah, I'm cranky. And she comes up with like 14 better words.
But okay, so I got to write this down 7.
She's taking show notes. See,
yeah,
look at how good
I'm
she's
trying.
Being.
I'm really,
but that's
really
a good way. And you know what? So here we have to wrap up because we're supposed to only go for an hour or so. But anyway,
35 minutes.
One of the
40,
one of the things
50.
That Taylor Swift and Blake Lively and that crew do is what they decided was Hollywood is full of competition. We're gonna take care of each other.
Oh yeah,
right. And we're gonna promote each other, and we're gonna back each other and support each other, and that's exactly it. And I think women sometimes see the success of others as a threat. I think just humans do. But sometimes there are some people who look and something happens and it's like, oh my goodness, we should be doing happy dances for our team success, our crew's success, our community's success, and being so happy for them, because honestly, it makes the world a better place when people have reached something that they wanted to achieve, right? So
yep, exactly. Well, and this that just that little comment that Barbara put on my post reminded me of what we've said before about the supernatural workout that we do. When you put a goal into your program,
the virtual reality workout, we'll also link to it because it's stinking awesome.
It's so good. Mine is 4 times a week, and you know what? Some of the workouts are 8 minutes long, but it doesn't matter. If I do it, I get a check. And at the end of 4, the coach comes on and they say, congratulations, way to go, I'm proud of you. And you've said this before, like, how many adults ever hear that?
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. And you know what? We're all just a little child inside who wants to hear that. And
that's just it, and want to be acknowledged and seen and your effort.
Especially if you did not grow up as a jock, which I had certain things I was good at, but I would never call myself a jock. And I was last pick for teams. Not a team player even then.
not one now either, except for this.
You lie.
Except for this. No, she is very good. I am just teasing. But that's just it. Like, and I think maybe that's the message we all take away from this is who could you, how do you say it again? Kvelling.
Kvelling.
Who could you kvel this week?
Yeah.
Right? That would be a good thing.
Give someone a shout out. Make them feel, show them that you're proud of them.
Yeah.
That you recognize
and that you
their
believe in them and support
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of goes into the gratefuls, because I'm grateful because you always support me. Right?
I'm glad you say that. I'm glad you feel that way.
No, but she does. But you're also realistic. Like if I'm going off, because I promise you I do, on these tangents, like we could have a circus. And she's like, no.
That's not out of the realm of possibility for her to suggest something like that.
I had a circus when I was like 8.
I am not surprised.
I raised money because I wanted to buy one of the animals at the zoo and send it back to Africa.
That totally tracks.
Anyway, my little Chihuahua dog was supposed to be a pony.
Okay.
It was a miniature pony. I put a little fake saddle on him.
God.
Anyway, so that's my grateful. Is that what you're grateful for today? That you're always cavelling me.
Good Lord. Well, my grateful was that I had a book come out and that the cover's not horrible.
Let me just show you one more time.
Because you get the cover you get. And you have a little bit of input. But anyway, that one's a good one. I have to have another one. I have to be grateful for 2 things.
Yes.
I am grateful for whatever you cooked over there that smells so good.
It's just chicken broth.
Every time that we do this, we usually end up having, it's like, just come over. Tell the guys to come down and we'll just eat whatever we have. And I made something at home for Ray to bring over when he comes. But you always have something good to eat here. And that is dangerous, my friend. That is a dangerous precedent because I'm going to be here to eat it.
It's good. When you cook, you like to have people eat the things, right?
Well, I am grateful for your ability and your generosity.
There we go. Okay, so we're going to close off this repeat of a repeat.
Yes, it's it's V2V2.
Yeah. It's the one where Ruth erased. Ruth deleted the thing. Okay, so what do we want, Roxanne?
Oh, we want more happy hours. And what do we want less of?
Less bullshit. I hope you all have a good week. And we'll see you next week because, this is how it works now.
That's right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.